This episode of Shadiversity is brought to you by the Castles shirt, because castles are awesome and you want to let your friends know that not only are they awesome, but you know that they are awesome, as evidenced by this awesome shirt with an awesome castle on it. But not just any castle, I'm talking about a historically accurate, properly designed, high-detailed castle with all the bells and whistles. Available through Teespring, link in the description.
Shadiversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and I'm making this video in response to some of the discussion that was sparked in response to one of my previous videos, Can the Fantasy Barbarian / Bikini Armor be realistic? Now, most of the discussion in the comments was based around the content of the video, can they be realistic, and the comments were great, people sharing other thoughts on how less clad, talking about armor, so warriors who wear less armor to almost no clothes, other examples in history where it was done, and other reasons why it could have happened as well, to explain how the fantasy barbarian might exist logically. And so that was all great, but a lesser portion of the replies was kind of referencing one of the comments I made in regards to the male and female depictions of the barbarian, and how I said that they are completely equivalent from the perspective of them being of the same level of objectification. Like, if you consider one being objectifying, specifically the female, you should also consider the male to be sexually objectifying for pure logical consistency. And some of the replies to this was that, no, Shad, one, they're both sexist, because one is an objectification of female and the other is a male power fantasy. And these comments have confused me somewhat, because say if it is true, say the male depiction of the barbarian is a male power fantasy, how does that not make it objectifying? I mean, one doesn't cancel out the other. Both can actually exist in the same depiction, can it not? It doesn't prevent women from looking at this depiction of the male fantasy barbarian in a sexual way. And for the people that say this is the type of men that women are not attracted to, it's what men like, not what real women like, the front covers of most female romance novels would tend to disagree with that. There is a very large proportion of women out there who do like the muscle-bound guy. And if people do not have a problem with guys walking around showing off a lot of skin to be sexually attractive, they then have no moral or ethical grounds to have a problem with women doing that. Or men creating female characters in movies, TV shows, video games, role-playing games, or whatever, who also wear scantily clad clothing. Now, having said that, do I feel that the depictions of the female fantasy barbarian are in most cases sexualized for a male audience when the male fantasy barbarian is not? And yes, I do. Men like women, they like women looking sexy, and as we all know, sex sells. For myself, I have more conservative standards in that regard, but there we come to a bit of a problem here, and it's this. Sexualization does happen, and it is done by individuals willingly. Why? Because men like to appear attractive to women, and women like to appear attractive to men. And so, in the context of the worlds that we're looking at, are there situations where these female barbarians might find it advantageous to appear sexually attractive to men? I think yes, obviously. And depending on what in their tribe is depicted as being attractive, and if it's wearing, skimpy bikinis or whatever, but we've already answered this really in the other video, because cultural standards, they can vary widely, and they're very realistic, because there are standards where cultures don't even wear clothes. So I don't think it is unrealistic that a female barbarian character would want to appear attractive to men, or a male barbarian character want to appear attractive to female. The thing is, there are simply different standards of what men and women are attracted to. But there's more to it than just this, because I think what the real issue that people are having here is that the male warriors who are depicted as warriors are shown to be strong, powerful characters who look like real warriors, and the female equivalents are depicted as skinny, large-breasted supermodels. And I actually agree to this to an extent. If a character is supposed to be a warrior and powerful, and have trained their whole lives to, know how to fight, they're gonna have a decent amount of muscle on them, aren't they? But that doesn't mean they can't still be attractive. I mean, have a look at Ronda Rousey, a female MMA fighter, alright? This is what a female warrior would look like. She's got muscle on her. And so a female warrior, no, they're not going to be skinny supermodels. That's just pure realism, okay? And if you want immersion and realism, I get that completely. What I find interesting about this is that the image I used in the thumbnail of my Barbarians video, and I use it in the video itself, of Red Sonja as kind of the classic iconic image of the bikini-clad barbarian, right? Was that out of the people that voiced their objection, and there's nothing wrong with that, they can share their thoughts, and some made me think, and some I even agreed with to an extent. And out of those people, it was this image that kind of triggered those objections. But just about this image in particular, I actually don't think it's an unfair depiction of what a female barbarian would look like. You know, Red Sonja here, she has muscle on her, alright? Compare this picture with the female Olympics, image I used. The Red Sonja here has a lot more muscle on her, and, she doesn't have a six-pack, but that just means she has a bit more fat on her as well, so there's not much to complain about in my mind. Is it sexualized? Yes, of course it is, but that is mainly due to our own cultural standards and what body parts have been sexualized in the modern day. Because of these standards and the fact that I am a more conservative kind of a person, the classic barbarian outfits are kind of the outfits that I, personally, would only see a wife wearing for her husband and a husband wearing for his wife for their own mutual enjoyment. If that's your thing. And I certainly wouldn't want my daughter wearing an outfit like this, nor would I let my sons run around in loincloths. But that doesn't mean, in terms of the realm of the character, that might not have been this character's choice. Just like it would be for a male character's choice. And this is the thing, right? There are real-world equivalents of the same. There are many women who claim that this type of dress is empowering. I mean, you've heard of slut walks? And again, I find this deeply intriguing because I am a writer and I've created many fictional characters, and I many times have come up to this kind of confrontation where I am creating a character with far different standards to my own. But I'm not here to create a story where it's an echo chamber of my beliefs or where everything is only the way I see it. No, I'm here to create real, diverse characters to make an engaging, enjoying story, and if there are messages that I'd like to interweave through the narrative, I'll do it in a subtle way that's reflected by perhaps one of the characters and their experience and viewpoint. Many of you know that I don't swear. It's funny, I'm Australian, so there are some expressions that are not considered swear words in Australia, but other people consider them are. Like, for Australian Mormons, damn and hell is just that they're words. They're not bad at all. But you say that to a Mormon from Utah, and they'll be like, "My ears are burning," kind of thing. But having said that, there are words that Utah Mormons say that Australian Mormons actually think are swear words. Like, and I'll say it just, we're all, but like piss. That is a word too colourful. All right, it's too far on the nose, or like for Australian Mormons, we don't say that over here. But yeah, so it's funny. Culture has so much of an influence on all of this. And this is what I mean, because when I write a character with different standards to my own, especially if they're from a different culture, that character will probably use more colourful language than I ever would. And it's not hypocritical to create a character that it has different standards to your own if it's being true to the character and world setting. And the entire content of my other video was a discussion on if the classic medieval fantasy barbarian could logically exist and make sense. Are there cultural precedents for it in the real world? And of course we found that there was. So that, in my mind, means the creation of female scantily clad barbarians and male scantily clad barbarians is not sexist at all. Is it sexist for the female barbarians to all look like supermodels? No, it's not. I mean, it's unrealistic, but having said that, you can have women who have muscles on them that also look like supermodels. And so in that sense, no, it's also not unrealistic, nor is it sexist. Because you're essentially saying by that men are not allowed to be attracted to women. You are not allowed to make barbarians look sexually attractive. And remember, they don't need to be scantily clad to be sexually attractive. Nor does being scantily clad universally mean sexual objectification. And if men are attracted to skinny, model-proportioned women, that's their choice. It's an unrealistic standard, and good luck finding a woman in their life that meets that standard, but it's their choice. Men are perfectly entitled to being attracted to women, and therefore creating characters that they find attractive in whatever the mediums they create, comic books, movies, video games, whatever. Just as women are entitled to find men attractive, and in fact, we would hope that would be the case. We want the human race to continue, don't we? Well, for that to happen, we need most men to be attracted to women and most women to be attracted to men, so let's hope that remains the same. And everything applies to both sides of the fence. So if when I say women don't have a right to tell men what they should be attracted to, same thing, men don't have a right to tell women what they should be attracted to in men. What men or women find physically attractive in the other, alright, has some very base levels in our genetics and stuff like that, but it's more largely determined by society. You see, we are biologically kind of encoded to find health attractive, so if someone is healthy, physically healthy, we'll generally find that attractive, and also symmetry attractive, okay? Combine those two things, and you can find general standards of beauty in other cultures, but then there are extreme additions on top of this, where it gets really bizarre, where one culture, and this is what I mentioned in my other video as well, where one culture can find tiny feet really attractive, or a stretched out bottom lip really attractive, and sometimes we've found people with more plump on their body attractive, and other times not. And because this is the thing, alright? Having a bit of fat on you is not actually an unhealthy thing. Being morbidly obese is unhealthy, alright? But having a bit of fat is not, and in some cases it can be a healthy thing, especially in a medieval period where food is more scarce. Having a bit of fat on you was a sign of health, but also wealth as on top of that. Also, in terms of being a warrior, okay, having a bit of fat on you, more cushion, also helpful as well. Putting a bit of flesh between you and your vital organs, again, helpful as well. And you can be profoundly fit while having a bit of fat on you as well. There's nothing wrong with a bit of fat. Now, I'm not saying I'm on board with the whole fat pride movement, because there is a level of obesity that becomes profoundly unhealthy, but we need to know where the line is, alright? Having a bit of, having a gut on you, alright? If you're still healthy, that's perfectly fine, and there are many cases, okay, throughout history and other cultures, where that was seen as a sexually attractive thing, because it falls into the same things of symmetry and health. If those two boxes are ticked, okay, we are capable of finding it sexually attractive. Why do you think having good teeth in the past was also considered an attractive thing? Because it was a sign of health. She have good teeth. I like her, or I like him. So signs of health always gets played into cultural beauty standards, and it's my opinion that the beauty standards of the modern day are actually really extreme, and all to an unhealthy level, because they're very unattainable for most people. I can't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Chris Hemsworth. That's just beyond me, okay? And if women get in their mind that that's the only type of men that they want, I never would have gotten married, and it's the same token for men as well. If men think that they could only, be attracted to supermodels or, women with just unrealistic proportions, you're going to have a very hard time finding a good woman in your life, guys. It's much more healthy to have a far more realistic beauty standard, and it's very possible, okay? It's hard, don't get me wrong, because the media promotes both men and women in such a profoundly unrealistic standard that I think it can actually be quite detrimental to society as a whole. So the classic fantasy barbarian actually perpetuates this unrealistic beauty standard, but it's not the only thing that's guilty of it. All media in the world, movies, fashion magazines, makeup, basically everything is perpetuating this very unrealistic beauty standard. So you can't fault the barbarian archetype without faulting everything, because you need to be ethically consistent. My other thing that I will acknowledge here, right, is that you can't blame people to have these beauty standards. As unrealistic as I'm saying they are, the media conditions you from birth to have these beauty standards, okay? Whether you're male or female, that's generally what you are now engineered to find attractive. You can choose to try and counter-condition yourself, alright? It takes some mental exercise, but it's perfectly possible. But for the larger majority of people in the world, this is what they find attractive. This is what our culture says is beautiful. And I don't think there is any right to fault people wanting to be presented or look upon things that they find beautiful. Men have a right to be attracted to women, and women have a right to be attracted to men. And so, if men create a female character according to the female beauty standards that are portrayed in the world, that they have really been conditioned to be attracted to, and even if they want to undertake means so that they will be perceived as sexualized, that is actually not a sexist thing. Why? Well, because both sexes do it, not just men, not just women, and if it's both sides, it's not sexist anymore, and I'm not saying that over-sexualization is perfectly fine or a good thing. In my opinion, it's actually more harmful for society as a whole, both for men and women. And I understand that many people are going to disagree with me on that point. I'm just stating what my own personal standards are, and you are free to take from it what you will. Now let's address the idea of the male power fantasy, and my first reaction to this accusation that it's a bad thing is, who said it's a bad thing? How on earth is this an undisputed sexist thing? Now, I know some people perceive it to be as male power, meaning power to subjugate and oppress women in marriage and other things like that. Well, of course, I don't agree with that interpretation of the male power fantasy, and I'll explain why. When people say that the male depiction of the barbarian is a male power fantasy, I actually don't really disagree with. There's some more significant parts to consider on each end, because I don't think it's the only type of male power fantasy, and I don't think it satisfies every man's depiction, but the male barbarian is a powerful warrior, and I know for myself that one of the reasons why I enjoyed it is their power and strength. I don't see why the female barbarian can't be considered a female power fantasy, but the response to that is, I think people will say, but that is built for the, male gaze, and what, you think the male depiction of the barbarian cannot be pleasing to females' eyes? I mean, and even if they both are, it doesn't discount the fact that they can actually both represent power fantasies. There are actually many female action heroes that are built around to be female power fantasies, like Charlie's Angels, Rey from the new Star Wars The Force Awakens, or indeed the Black Widow in the Marvel movies. These are all women kicking butt. I acknowledge completely that having a power fantasy is not as significant for women as it is for men, because it's actually important for men's emotional health to feel masculine, to feel like men. And part of feeling like a man is feeling capable of providing and protecting his loved ones, his family, and also the things that he owns. These are all very tied in very closely to the male psyche, and I understand this well because I am a male. When I say I understand what it means to be a man, it's because I have experiences. Like, for me, it's a very important thing for me to have a strong masculine identity, for me to feel like a man. And one of the ways that men do this is by enjoying male power fantasies. We love the action heroes. Why? Because we would love to be an action hero, because the more powerful and competent you are, the more capable you are at fulfilling the traditional male roles. And the more capable men are at fulfilling those roles, the more emotionally healthy they will be. And so, why does fantasizing about being powerful help out men? Because it leads into action, okay? As a kid, I loved all the sword fighting, all the movies with sword fights and other things like that. It was great, okay? And you know what that led me? What influence that had on me? It was to go out and start using swords and playing and everything. And you know what effect that has? That makes me more fit. And being more fit makes me stronger and more capable at doing physical labor. Not just labor, just any type of physical activity. But being more fit and capable physically helps me perform those physical roles that is my responsibility around my home that my wife is incapable of doing because she is far physically weaker than I am. Now, of course, emotionally, she is incredibly strong. But seriously, when it comes to physical strength, the contrast between myself and my wife, it's actually shocked me on many occasions. And I never really considered myself a particularly strong guy, very average, but my goodness, when I do compare myself to my wife, I feel like the Incredible Hulk. And of course, my wife isn't considered particularly weak or strong for a woman either. Whenever there's something that requires heavy lifting, that's my job to do, and it is a privilege and honor to do it because I am the man of the house, and it makes me feel better about myself because it makes me feel more manly. This is all tied into male power fantasy and why it's important and significant for men to not only feel free to enjoy them, but to not be shamed and guilted for enjoying it. Like, this is important for male mental emotional health. So let me just talk about the perception that male power fantasy is a means for men to visualize their domination over women and other people, and that all men like this kind of thing. This is a gross villainization of men, okay? Because men are not like this. There are exceptions, like jerks exist all around the world, regardless of sex. People who love to manipulate and control other people. No single gender is more predisposed to being jerks to other people than the other gender. That isn't the the case. Just as capable of being jerks to one another, and we would hope these are the minority, and certainly not the standards that we would like to reflect and say are representative of men and women as a whole. And this is the truth. Most people are not jerks. They can do jerky things, when they're in a bad mood and stuff like that, but on the larger scheme of things, yes, jerks exist, but they are not truly representative of people as a whole. People want to be good people. And this is what I mean about male power fantasy, okay? Men don't fantasize over subjugating women. That is just ridiculous. And what a terrible villainization of men. That's I find particularly disgusting. Real men don't want to control women as a means to feel more masculine and powerful. In fact, it's a profoundly weak and pathetic man who does that. No, real men want to take care of women and provide for them. Why? Because it is that makes them feel more manly and masculine, to take care of others' needs and protect them. Now, there are women in the world who say, I don't need a man to take care of me, and that's probably true, but you would be happier if you did, and men are more than willing to do it if you're worth it. Now, how is this a sexist thing? It's not a form of subjugation and oppression, it's a form of service and devotion. Now, of course, there are men who oppress their wives, and that is a disgusting thing. And they are the minority that real men despise, okay? Real men don't hit innocent, defenseless women. Real men want to defend, protect, and take care of women. And the more capable we feel in being able to do this, the more manly and masculine we feel as well. It makes us happy and emotionally healthy, and the male power fantasy is simply a healthy expression of this. So please, can we stop villainizing men? And so these are the things that I wanted to share in this big old rant. I can get on my soapbox sometimes, I tell ya. And I know it's not generally the content of this channel, but people are interested in my opinions, especially when I make divisive kind of videos, as the Barbarian one is, okay? That video clearly triggers conversation, and conversation is wonderful. If you disagree with anything that I've said here, I don't mind at all, okay? That's what makes the world great. And hopefully we can have, there can be disagreements with people, but still mutual respect. That's the goal, and that's the thing that is so missing in society. If we can all just get along, even in our differences, the world would be a better place. Thank you for letting me go on this rant. I do appreciate you listening. I hope to see you again, and until next time, farewell.